My girlfriend called me from vacation to say she married another man. I blocked her. The scent of burnt coffee and the low-level hum of the server in the corner of my office were the soundtrack of my life. It was 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. George, was where I always was, at the office. I had been working 14-hour days for 3 straight weeks to close out the Quantum Leap project, a platform migration that would earn me the bonus that would, in turn, pay for the extension of my girlfriend Mia's dream vacation. We had been together for 6 years. 6 years of building something, so I thought. My phone vibrated on the desk, illuminating the stack of technical specification papers. It was a video call from her. My heart raced a little, as it always did. She was in Italy, Florence, I think, or maybe she was already on the Amalfi Coast. I was paying the bills, but I could barely keep up with her Instagram itinerary. I swiped to accept, preparing myself to smile. George, my love. The connection was surprisingly clear. Mia appeared on the screen, but she wasn't at a museum or on a beach. She was on the balcony of a hotel room that looked obscenely expensive, with the Mediterranean sunset painting the sky in shades of purple and orange behind her. She looked radiant, more beautiful than ever. She wore a white silk dress, and her hair was elegantly pinned up. "Hi, Mia. You look incredible," I said, my voice hoarse from exhaustion. I rubbed my eyes behind my glasses. "How's everything? Did you like the vineyard I booked for you?" She laughed, a high-pitched sound, like little bells. But there was something in her eyes, a manic gleam that I mistook for travel happiness. "Oh, George, forget about the vineyard. Something happened. Something absolutely magical. You're not going to believe it. Try me." I smiled, leaning back in my chair. I imagined she had gotten a hotel upgrade or met some celebrity. "I met someone," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. My smile faltered. "Someone? Like an interesting tour guide?" "No, George. Someone. His name is Stefano. He's incredible. He's from a Milanese family. They own, well, everything, it seems." The hum of the server suddenly seemed deafening. A glacial cold began at the base of my spine. "Mia, what are you talking about?" She took a deep breath. Her smile was so wide it looked painful. "I got married, George." The room stopped spinning and simply halted. Time froze. I must have heard her wrong. The stress, the lack of sleep. "I got married this afternoon." It was an impromptu ceremony on a cliff in Positano. George, it was so romantic. Stefano just swept me off my feet. He knows how to live. He sees me. He truly sees me. I stared at my desk. A half-empty coffee cup, a half-eaten sandwich from 4 p.m., the email I had just sent to my team asking for more effort. The bonus. Her trip. "Mia," I said, and my voice was a strange, flat stranger. "We've been together for 6 years. I know, she said. And she had the audacity to look a little guilty, as if she had spilled wine on the carpet, not as if she had detonated a nuclear bomb in my life. "But this is different, George. This is real. You and I were stuck. You were always working. I deserve this. I deserve to be happy." Stuck? I wasn't stuck. I was building. I was building the life she had designed. The bigger house, the newer cars, the vacations I could never take. "Where are you?" I asked, my voice deadly calm. "At Luz Syrenius Hotel. George, you should see it. Stefano reserved everything." I didn't let her finish. "Enjoy it. George, are you okay? Don't be upset." I knew it would be a shock, but I hung up. I stared at my phone's black screen for maybe a minute, or maybe 10. The silence in my office was absolute. Then, very slowly, I turned to my computer. My heart wasn't beating. It was ice. I opened a new browser tab. I logged into my main bank account, a joint savings account. It held 95% of my liquid savings, prepared for the down payment on the house she wanted. Transfer funds. Select account. Joint savings. George and Mia. Select account. Personal checking. George. Amount. Everything. Confirm. I clicked. Next tab. American Express. Platinum card. Primary holder. George Ortiz. Supplementary card. Mia. Manage cards. Mia. Cancel card. Reason. Lost/stolen card. I thought it was appropriate. Confirm. Next tab. My mobile phone plan. Line 1. George Ortiz. Line 2. Mia. Manage lines. Line 2. Suspend service. Confirm. I blocked her number on my phone. I blocked her Instagram. I blocked her Facebook. I blocked her email. I stood up. I grabbed my jacket and briefcase. I turned off my desk light. I walked down the empty office hallway. I swiped my card to exit and entered the elevator. As the elevator descended 20 floors, I felt no sadness or rage. I felt a terrifying calm, a surgical emptiness. I had just performed the cleanest amputation of my life. If you're enjoying this story of betrayal and justice, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. And comment below, what would you have done in George's situation? Let me know. When I arrived at the apartment we had shared, the blow came not like a wave, but like a thief. I opened the door, and her scent was there. Vanilla and something expensive and floral. Her shoes were by the door, her silk robe hanging on the coat rack. And for the first time in 6 years, I realized how much space her absence occupied. I entered our bedroom. Half of her closet was empty. She had taken the best things for her trip. But what remained? The old t-shirts she wore to sleep, the worn jeans, the dress she she wore on our first date. The anger came then, a white, pure, volcanic anger. I grabbed the framed photo from our nightstand. The two of us in Cancun last year. Me, pale and smiling tiredly. Her, tanned and dazzling, drinking from a coconut. I threw it against the wall. The glass shattered, but the solid silver frame, a gift from my parents, hinted the plaster. I went to her closet and ripped the clothes from the hangers. I went to the bathroom and swept her expensive serums and creams off the counter, crashing against the marble, $300 bottles broken on the floor. For an hour, I systematically destroyed every trace of her. When I finished, I was sweating, panting, and the apartment looked like it had been ransacked. I sat in the middle of the chaos, on the living room floor, surrounded by feathers from broken cushions and shattered glass. And I cried. Not for her. I cried for the fool, for the workhorse, for the man who had worked himself nearly to death for someone who replaced him the moment a shinier, wealthier model appeared. I cried for my 6 lost years. The next 6 months were a blurry inferno. I moved. I couldn't bear the ghostly silence of that apartment. I found a smaller, industrial loft closer to my office. Something that was 100% mine. Exposed brick walls, exposed pipes, and huge windows overlooking the concrete jungle. I immersed myself in work, but differently. I no longer worked for the bonus, for the house, for the trip. I worked because it was the only thing I knew how to do. My partner, Carlos, a robust, sensible guy who had known me since college, tried to intervene. "George, you need to take a break," he told me one night, finding me still at the office at 11 p.m. "What that woman did to you is inhumane, but don't let it end you too." "It's not ending me, Carlos. It's fueling me," I replied acidly, without looking up from my code. Quantum Leap launched flawlessly. The client is ecstatic. The new Iris project is already underway. And for what? So you can buy a more expensive watch you don't have time to look at. I looked up. He was right. I had become a machine. A very efficient, deeply miserable money-making machine. What am I supposed to do, Carlos? Go on dates? Trust someone? No thanks. I've seen how that ends. It ends like that because you chose the wrong person. You chose a leech with an angel's face. Not all of them are like that. I shrugged and returned to my screen, but his words stayed with me. Eventually, the dull pain settled into cold cynicism. I succeeded massively. Without Mia's financial drain, my bank account skyrocketed. I invested. I bought myself a sports car she had always said was too flashy. I started going to the gym, not out of vanity, but to channel the residual rage into something physical. I lost 35 pounds. I cut my hair. I started wearing suits that fit well instead of the baggy, comfortable clothes I used to wear. People looked at me differently. Women looked at me, but all I saw in their eyes was calculation. What can he do for me? Nearly a year had passed since the call. I was in a planning meeting for a new office development our company was commissioning. We were reviewing proposals from architecture firms. "And this last one is from Solis Architects," said the project manager. "The lead architect is here to present, Regina Solis." The door opened, and she walked in. It wasn't like in the movies. There was no music, no slow motion. Regina was compact. She radiated a nervous, focused energy. She wore black dress pants, designer work boots, and an impeccable white shirt under a fitted blazer. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun from which strands escaped, as if she had been drawing feverishly moments before. And when she started speaking, her voice was clear, confident, and absolutely without embellishment. "Gentlemen, your current space proposal is inefficient," she began without preamble. "You're thinking cubicles. You're wasting natural light. You're building a hive when you could be building an ecosystem." She unfolded her plans and digital models. It was brilliant, not just aesthetic. It was functional, intelligent, and human-centered. I watched as she dismantled the board's multi-million-dollar proposal with calm, precise logic. Carlos was fascinated. "We're hiring her," I said as soon as she left the room. My job forced me to interact with her. I oversaw the Iris project, which would be housed in the new building. We had weekly meetings. I discovered things about Regina Solis. I discovered she arrived before me and left after me. I discovered her coffee was black like mine. I discovered she bit her lower lip when deeply focused on a structural design problem. I discovered she was divorced. My ex-husband thought architecture was a cute hobby until I started earning more than him, she told me one day as we reviewed network plans at the construction site, both wearing hard hats. He couldn't stand not being the center of the universe. He left with his 20-year-old assistant. I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the exhaustion around her eyes, but also the steel resilience in her posture. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. She shrugged, her eyes fixed on the blueprint. "Don't be. It was the best design decision of my life. I eliminated dead weight." I laughed, a real laugh, not the cynical bark I had grown accustomed to. She looked at me and smiled. A small, quick, but genuine smile. Our work meetings started to drift. We talked about construction materials and then about music. We talked about deadlines and then about books. I discovered she was sarcastic, fiercely intelligent, and surprisingly kind. One Friday night, we were working late, as usual. "Let me take you to dinner, Regina," I said, surprising myself. "As thanks for fixing the HVAC disaster." She stared at me for a long second, evaluating me. There was no flirtation in her gaze, only analysis. "Okay, George, but nothing fancy. I know a taco place that will blow your mind." We went to a hole-in-the-wall joint, sat on plastic stools under fluorescent lights, and ate the best tacos in the city. We talked about everything accept work. We talked about our families, our failures, the fear of starting over. She told me how she had to fight to build her own firm after her ex-husband tried to take her clients. I told her about Mia. I didn't tell her the financial revenge part, just the betrayal, call, the emptiness. She didn't say poor thing or how horrible. She simply nodded, her eyes filled with an understanding that disarmed me. Pain is a terrible architect, George, she said quietly, wiping her hands with a napkin. It makes you build walls where you should build bridges. That night, when I dropped her off at her apartment, a modest but elegant building she had designed herself, I didn't try to kiss her. I just thanked her for dinner. Thank you for being normal, she replied. Good night, George. I realized she was the first woman I had spent time with in a year who didn't make me feel like an ATM or a trophy. She made me feel like a person. Our relationship was built slowly, brick by brick, like the building we were working on. It was built on foundations of mutual respect. We went from tacos to real dinners, from project meetings to Sunday walks in the park. I discovered she had a booming laugh when something truly amused her. I discovered she was a fierce mother to her 7-year-old son, Mateo, from her previous marriage. Meeting Mateo was the real turning point. Regina invited me to a barbecue in her small backyard. I went with trepidation, but Mateo, wearing glasses and radiating intense curiosity, simply asked me if I knew how rocket engines worked. We ended up spending 2 hours building a soda bottle and vinegar rocket. As we watched it fly clumsily over his fence, Regina watched from the back door with a soft smile that hit my chest. That night, after Mateo fell asleep, we sat on her couch. The silence was comfortable. He likes you, she said. I like him too. He's smarter than me. She laughed. Yes, probably. I turned to look at her. The lamplight illuminated the dust in the air and the expression lines around her eyes. They were the most beautiful lines I had ever seen. I leaned in and kissed her. It was a quiet kiss, without desperation, without the feverish urgency I had shared with Mia. It was a kiss that felt like coming home. It was solid, real. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. I was scared of this, she whispered. Me too, I admitted. I still am. Good, she said. It means it matters. Life with Regina was normal. And by normal, I mean wonderful. We cooked together. We argued about which movie to watch. I helped Mateo with his math homework. We went to his soccer games. She came to my product launches and asked intelligent questions that impressed my colleagues. She didn't need me. She chose me. She had her own life, her own successful career. When I bought her a gift, she bought me one back, sometimes better. Our relationship wasn't a transaction. It was a partnership. The office building was completed. It was a masterpiece. It won awards. My career flourished. Her firm took off. We moved together into a house we designed together. A house filled with light, books, and architectural plans everywhere. 2 years had passed since the call. I was in the backyard one Saturday afternoon. The smell of grilling meat filled the air. Regina was reading in a hammock, barefoot. Mateo was trying to teach our golden retriever named Volt to fetch. Then the doorbell rang. I'll get it, I told Regina. I set down the grill tongs and walked through the house. I opened the front door and the world stopped again. But this time for the wrong reasons. It was her, Mia. But she wasn't the radiant goddess from the Positano balcony. This was a haggard, broken version. She was pale and thinner than I had ever seen her. Her blonde hair, once glorious, was dull and badly dyed, with visible dark roots. She wore worn jeans and a t-shirt that had once been expensive but now looked old. Her eyes, once bright, were sunken and desperate. She was holding a worn suitcase. George, she whispered, and her voice broke. My reaction was neither anger nor pity. It was nothing. A cold void. It was like looking at a complete stranger. Mia, I said, my voice flat. How did you find this address? I asked at your old office. I had to beg the receptionist. Her eyes looked over my shoulder into my house. She saw the warmth, the light, the family photos on the entry wall. Her face contorted. George, please. I made a mistake. George? Who is it, honey? Regina's voice came from the hallway. She appeared behind me, drying her hands on a kitchen towel. She wore denim shorts, a simple t-shirt, and her reading glasses. She looked at Mia, then at me, and her intelligent face understood everything instantly. Mia's eyes locked onto Regina. Venom and disbelief flooded her face. Oh, Mia spat. So this is it. You replaced me. No, I said, stepping forward, instinctively blocking Regina from her gaze. I grew. What do you want, Mia? He left me, George. Tears began to flow. Ugly, desperate tears. Stefano was a fraud. Everything was a lie. His family had no money. He had debts. He married me thinking you were my safety net, that I had access to your money. The irony was so thick I almost choked. When you cut off the cards, he went crazy. He became violent. He left me. He ran off with a German heiress, a real one this time. He took everything. My passport, what money I had left. I had to sell. I had to sell the watch you gave me for our anniversary just to get a flight back. I've been staying in a shelter for 3 days. She extended a trembling hand to touch my arm. George, please. I was a fool. I was blinded, but I always loved you. Deep down, it was always you. I need you. I stepped back, away from her touch. No, you didn't, I said, and the calm in my voice seemed to scare her more than if I had yelled. You loved what I gave you. And the moment someone offered a shinier package, you sold yourself. Those 6 years meant nothing to you on that balcony. Why should they mean anything to me now? Her desperation turned to rage. The real Mia surfaced. And you replaced me with her, she screamed, pointing at Regina. A used single mother. I gave you my youth. I gave you my best years. You owe me. You can't leave me on the street. Before I could respond, Regina stepped forward. She wasn't angry. She looked bored. George, she said calmly, I'm going to take Mateo inside. It's getting cold. She squeezed my arm and retreated. Her dignity was a shield that Mia's words couldn't penetrate. I turned to Mia. The sight of Regina's calm solidified my resolve. She said quietly but sharply, is 10 times the woman you will ever dream of being. She builds things, Mia. You only know how to consume. You can't do this to me. I'm ruined. I have nowhere to go, she screamed, her face contorted with hysteria. That was your choice. You made it 2 years ago in Positano, in a silk dress with champagne in hand. Now get off my property. George, please. I closed the door. The sound of the lock clicking was final. I leaned against the wood. My heart was pounding, not from love or loss, but from the adrenaline of the final confrontation. I heard a muffled cry outside, followed by a weak knock on the door, and then silence. Regina came out of the hallway. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask what had happened. She simply walked over, placed her hands on my chest, and looked into my eyes. The meat is burning, she said softly. I laughed, a short, liberated laugh. I wrapped my arms around her and hugged her tightly. I know, I said, inhaling the scent of wood smoke and apple shampoo from her hair. My story with Mia was over. Mia's story, however, continued. I didn't see her, but Carlos, my partner, found out everything weeks later. After I rejected her, Mia tried to turn to her old friends, the ones she had cultivated for their social status. She quickly discovered that friendship based on appearances evaporates as soon as appearances disappear. No one returned her calls. She tried contacting other men from her past, but news of her spectacular fall, marrying a fraud, being abandoned in Europe, had spread like a virus among the social circle she had worked so hard to build. She was damaged goods. She was last seen, not in a shelter, but working. She was clearing tables at a generic restaurant on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place she would never have voluntarily entered. She wore an ill-fitting polyester uniform, and her hair was pulled back in a hairnet. She was alone, serving coffee to happy families, young couples just starting out, successful women like Regina lunching with clients. Carlos told me that an old acquaintance saw her there. She recognized him, and the humiliation on her face was absolute. She turned and ran to the kitchen. She hadn't been abandoned into misery. She had meticulously worked to build it herself, and now, finally, she was living in the house she had designed.